One of the bestsellers of all times, certainly among Christians, is The Mystical City of God by the Venerable Mary of Jesus of Agreda. She was born in 1602 in Agreda, Spain. She died in the same place, in the Conceptionist Poor Clare Monastery, of which she had been abbess for many years, in 1665. In 1670, the work that she wrote, in great part dictated by Our Lady herself during contemplative experiences, was published and immediately became the object of considerable criticism on the part of those who thought themselves to be fully literate theologically. Nonetheless, since 1670, it's gone through over 100 editions in Spain alone, the latest being the critical Spanish edition by Father Celestino Sergurden, Franciscan, 1970, sold out by 1980 and reprinted again and still selling briskly. Many editions in French, many more still in Italian, and even numerous editions in German. There's been only one edition in English, but it has continued for a century to be a bestseller itself, notwithstanding the total lack of interest on the part of English-speaking scholars in this particular work. So what we want to ask is, why has this work been such a bestseller? Why has it nourished the life of so many saints, including a number of candidates for beatification in North America, the Venerable Antonio Margil in Mexico, and in the United States, the Venerable Solanus Casey were great readers and promoters of this work. And the answer is to be found precisely in the contemplative mode of studying and writing theology. It is the highest mode, says St. Bonaventure, and is the only mode in which we can fully write about holy persons. Every person is a mystery. If you try to put me under somebody's psychological microscope, I'll rebel. All the more so. The saint cannot be contained within the categories of academic science, least of all physical science. You simply do not grasp what is meant by person, let alone this person, this ego, who is absolutely unique. Anyway, to come to my point, there is a certain beauty about the style itself. The great objection, well, she indulges in all the exaggerations of the Baroque age. This isn't good exegesis. We may not like the Baroque style, but the Baroque style is as good as any style for setting forth what is beautiful, for setting forth what is the truth. Correctly, Paul VI underscored this. This kind of work is an exercise in the way of beauty, most appropriate to Our Lady, tota pulchra est, thou art all fair, O Immaculate One, and the original stain is not in thee. So much for the basis of that overwhelming, almost unanimous vote of the simple faithful, the sensus fidelium, the perception of the believer. This is great theology. And in fact, in the judgment of competent European scholars, especially those most prepared to understand her, the Spanish scholars, this work represents among not only one of the finest works of Spanish literature in the Baroque period, but one of the finest works of contemplative theology ever written, in the golden age of Spanish theology and Mariology, which is the 17th century. The Academy of the Immaculate published an English translation this year of Father Enrique Llamas Martinez' study of the Venerable Mother Agreda and the Mariology of Vatican II. A few years ago, Pope John Paul II, on behalf of the Spanish hierarchy, asked the Holy Office, the Congregation of the Faith, for the nihil obstat required in order to reopen for the umpteenth time the cause of the beatification of the Venerable Mary. And the reply to this time, no objections to the mystical phenomena. You all know that by bilocating from her cell, when she was between 20 and 30, innumerable times, before any missionaries arrived in what we know today as Texas and New Mexico, she converted most of the Indian tribes there. And they were the ones who went to the Franciscan missionaries to ask for baptism. And all of this has been verified. Anyway, the Holy Office said no objections to the mystical phenomena. However, even though she is a holy woman, an Orthodox woman, her Mariology is incompatible with Vatican II. How can you say someone is perfectly Orthodox and not be compatible with an ecumenical council? Anyway, the Spaniards didn't give up. And among others, they held a number of symposia, 5 or 6 massive works of scholarship, study for the 400th anniversary of her birth, among other things. The net result was they decided they were going to push forward and continue to press for the beatification. Father Llamas wrote to show that there is nothing unbiblical. On the contrary, this work is profoundly biblical. She fills in the blanks. But that's what every theologian is doing when he explains the Scripture. You're filling in the blanks that everybody needs to have filled in, otherwise you don't get the point. And Mother Agreda explains why there is relatively little apparently, because Our Lady didn't want to be talked about. She wanted us to talk about Jesus first. But we know from the apparitions of Fatima, Jesus wants us now to talk about his mother, the triumph of the Immaculate Heart. He points out in the first section of his book, there is no gap between the Mariology of this famous work and the Bible. Nor is there any gap between what the Venerable Mother says and what Vatican II. She anticipates some of the prime underlined, underscored points of Lumen Gentium chapter 8, especially the importance of the incarnation divine maternity as the foundation of the redemption, co-redemption, although the Council didn't use that last term. Nonetheless, he shows text for text, almost word for word. Mother Agreda and Vatican II are identical. And not only that, but also, as it were, mother and teacher of the apostles. John Paul II, Benedict XVI have used that very terminology. Anyway, all I want to say is repeat what Father Llamas says so well. She deserves to be beatified. The whole Church deserves to receive the blessings that could come to us by pondering this work. The faithful have always had it right. This work is important, and hence, as it were, we hope that the circulation of this work, many of those who are already devotees of the mystical city of God, but many others will come to see it's not arid nonsense. It's not a monumental work totally unbalanced, Hilda Graf 40 years ago in her History of Mariology. It is one of the finest studies of Our Lady ever written. You will not be disappointed to find that the whole work is organized to reflect the joyful, the sorrowful, and the glorious mysteries, to understand our role, the role of Our Lady as the universal mediatrix of all graces, precisely because co-redemptrix because Mother of God because the Immaculate Conception. Thank you very much.